Now we will discuss the concept of nuisance under the law of tort. Nuisance is basically a specific type of torts which means unlawfully disturbing others in the enjoyment of their property. The word nuisance has been derived from the French word nuire, which means to hurt, to annoy, or something which is offensive. So to prove the tort of nuisance, you have to prove certain essentials. What are those essentials? First, you have to prove that there is an unreasonable interference. And second, such unreasonable interference must be with respect to the enjoyment or right over some property, which must result in injury or discomfort to the plaintiff in the enjoyment of the property. So you have to prove basically three ingredients to prove the tort of nuisance. First, you have to prove there is unreasonable interference. Now the question is, what is unreasonable interference? Is there any definition of unreasonable interference? No, it is not defined anywhere, but we have to go by the reasonableness of a particular situation. What the respectable substantial portion of a society thinks about a particular activity. So that is the criteria for determining the reasonableness of an particular activity. So first you have to prove there is an unreasonable interference with respect to the enjoyment of the property resulting in injury or discomfort to the plaintiff in the enjoyment of the property. So like in our society, we have to face a lot of interferences in our life which we have to tolerate in order to coexist, because if we cannot tolerate those minor interferences, nobody will go out just because of the fear of disturbing others. Like if you are going by the road on the road and there is a certain traffic on the road which disturbing you, you cannot say that is unreasonable, because we have to bear it in order to coexist. So there are a lot of minor interferences in our life which we have to bear just because we cannot complain about any activity which is something which is important for the life. Second, such unreasonable interference must be with respect to the enjoyment of property. Means the plaintiff who says that some activity of the defendant is unreasonable must prove that he is enjoying the property. And for the enjoyment of the property, it is not necessary the person should be the owner. It is enough that if he is occupying a property for a substantial duration of time. So thus such an unreasonable interference must be with respect to the enjoyment of the property, and such interference must result either to the injury to the property or discomfort to the plaintiff. For example, suppose if your neighbor who is habitual of burning piles of dead leaf every morning in his garden, and the smoke from the fire always blows into your house, causing you disturbance in your sleeping. So the activity of your neighbor can be considered as unreasonable interference with respect to the enjoyment of the property, since you are being denied the right of enjoying your property safely, which is resulting in discomfort to you. So this is a clear-cut example. There is an unreasonable activity. He is burning the fire daily in his garden, resulting in interference to you. You are not able to enjoy your property and creating discomfort to you. So these are the things you have to prove to make a case for the nuisance. For example, suppose if you are a neighbor, water in his garden in such a way that water always flows into your house, destroying your carpet and garden. So this is a clear-cut example of nuisance. You can sue your neighbor for nuisance. So for establishing this tort of nuisance, you have to prove there is an unreasonable activity, unreasonable interference going on, creating disturbance to you, resulting in injury or discomfort to the plaintiff. So basically, any unreasonable interference with respect to the enjoyment of the property or health and safety of the property is basically a nuisance. So you have to prove three ingredients: unreasonable interference with respect to the enjoyment of the property resulting in either discomfort to the plaintiff or injury to the property itself. In India, there are two kind of nuisance. One is private nuisance, which we have discussed, and one is public nuisance. Public nuisance is different from the private nuisance in some respect, because public nuisance is a criminal offense. It is actionable by the state. Any person can file a complaint before the court of law and complain to the police, who can take action to prevent such kind of public nuisance. So public nuisance is basically an unreasonable interference with the right common to the general public, meaning thereby public is affected by an activity. Suppose if you obstructing a highway by digging a trench in the middle of it, due to this many person has to take diversion to reach their destination. They may miss their important meetings. So the public is affected. Unreasonable interference with the right common to the general public. So there is a clear cut unreasonable activity if you are obstructing a highway by digging a trench in the middle of it. So basically, public nuisance can be defined as an unreasonable interference which actively interferes with the right of the public, with the rights of the common people, resulting in inconvenience to them. But there is an exception to it. In some cases, the public nuisance can also become a private nuisance. But how? Suppose the defendant created a brick grinding machine adjoining a plaintiff who was a medical practitioner. The dust generated by the brick grinding machine entered the plaintiff's chamber, causing problem in inhaling the fresh oxygen. And due to this, the number of patients were also reduced. So here, the kind of activities which is going on in this case is unreasonable. Everyone is getting affected in that locality, but doctor has suffered some special damages. And what are those special damages? The number of patients. Means there is a monetary loss to him. So he can sue for private nuisance for the private nuisance, and can file a suit against the defendant for claiming compensation. Right? So we can see this public nuisance is a criminal offense. Why this is a criminal offense? Because it will not be feasible, it will not be reasonable to allow multiple suits for a single cause of action. That's why the public nuisance has been made as a criminal offense, and it is actionable by the state. State will take the cognizance of such public nuisance. Clear? Moreover, if a person is sensitive, means he is easily disturbed by an activity which is reasonable, but according to him it is unreasonable. So the law will not allow his claim. He cannot file a suit for claiming compensation. Means law will not help those who are oversensitive or liable to be easily get disturbed. For example, Ram and his wife occupied a flat in New Delhi and started living there. Their neighbor was a young couple who was staying on a ranch having a 2-month-old baby. The cry of the baby always disturbed Ram in his sleep at night and noon. Irritated by the baby cries, he made a complaint to the couple and asked them to shift their residence, to which the couple did not pay any heed. Now Ram wants to file a suit for nuisance against the couple. Will his suit sustain? The answer is no, because Ram is here oversensitive. He cannot ask for compensation because cry of the baby is unexpected. The 2-month-old baby, definitely we will expect he will cry. So the cry of the baby is the expected part of the quiet enjoyment of the property. So the suit of the Ram will be rejected. Clear? Now, in the tort of nuisance, there is a certain defenses which can be taken up by the defendant to avoid the liability. And what are those defenses? Prescriptive right. What is prescriptive right? Prescriptive right is a right which can be acquired only if a person is doing an activity for more than 20 years. Means if a person is doing an activity for more than 20 years, he acquires a right to do or to continue with the activity. For example, suppose if you are living next to the musician who is playing drums, singing song in a loud voice, but you never complain to him for the 20 year. But in the next 21 year, you felt that it is a nuisance. Now you lose the right to stop that activity. Right? Second defense is statutory authority. Statutory authority means if any act which is authorized by the law, statute, legislation, cannot become a nuisance, though it may be a nuisance. Suppose if you are living next to the railway station and the horn, the smoke from the rail always disturb you sleep, you cannot file a suit against the railway because the plying of railway is authorized by the legislation, law. So these are the defenses. But there are some other ineffectual defenses which cannot be admitted in the court of law. What are those ineffectual defenses? Like reasonable care. If a person says that I have taken all the reasonable care to avoid nuisance to my neighbor, it cannot be admitted in the court of law because reasonable care is no defense. If you are creating nuisance, you will be liable. Simple. Suppose a person purchased a new music system and to celebrate the acquisition, he decided to throw a bash to his friends and the party start at 10 p.m. in the night. To avoid the nuisance or to prevent the escape of the nuisance, he bolted the doors and windows of his house, but still her neighbor were kept up throughout the night. Next day they decide to file a suit against the defendant. So whether defendant can say that I have taken all the care to avoid nuisance to them? No, he can't take. He will be liable for nuisance. Second ineffectual defense is plaintiff came to nuisance. Plaintiff came to nuisance. What does it mean? Suppose defendant who is habitual of singing songs in a loud voice every day and the plaintiff purchased a flat in the same building but got disturbed by the plaintiff singing and ask him to stop. So the question is whether the defendant can say, why you came here? I am already singing the song for the last so many years. No, he can't say. If his activity is considered as nuisance by his neighbor, that is plaintiff. So he will be asked to stop the activity. Next ineffectual defense is public good. Suppose the defendant says that I am doing an activity which will be beneficial for all the public, but it is a nuisance to a particular person. Can he take this defense? No, he can't take this defense. He will be liable for nuisance.